Hello and welcome to episode 2 of Purple Fufu, where we discuss the latest shenanigans on Vikings Twitter and Vikings related content. My co-hosts tonight are PFF_vibes, PFF regular season, and Vikings theorist.
What's up, everybody? I just want to say you sounded like that commercial, like if you were a loved one has been diagnosed with mesothelioma, you may be in touch. No, bro, it sounded great. It sounded great.
I went too professional. I killed the vibe.
I think everybody knows that you're the serious person in this pod, so it makes sense.
We got a lot of comments on your voice too, so we gotta show that off.
So sexy, bro.
We're gonna milk that.
That's gonna be a bit. That's gonna be a bit.
Before we get started, I just want to say, thanks to all of our listeners, for the very first episode and all the positive feedback we got. That helped us out a lot because I don't know about these other guys, but I was nervous about how everybody would react to it. But we love the love that you guys gave to us. So we're here for you guys. We're going to keep just talking Vikings football, Vikings Twitter. Appreciate the love. Make sure to spread that purple fufu wherever you go.
That's what everyone wants, it sounds like. We all really, really appreciate the response. It was very, very kind of all of you.
Speaking of bullshit, what the fuck happened on Monday night?
Don't get me started.
Oh my God.
There's not enough bad things to say about that game that I'd almost just rather talk about that new Game of Thrones series.
I haven't seen it.
It was a lot better than what I saw Monday night.
Man, they went out there and
turned it off at halftime.
Violently shit themselves on the field is what happened.
Yeah, and you three know I'm a huge Kirk Cousins fan. He shit the fucking bed Monday night, and I was it hurts me being a Kirk Cousins supporter after watching this game. But we all know he has a game like this every single year. So knock on wood, this is a game that he gets it done early, and we just see Kirk light it up the rest of the year.
Yeah. I've noticed that it's there's always one just absolute shitter right in the beginning of the year. And then he goes on to have 6 great games after that. And then he just is mid for the entire rest.
It's almost the mid stretch that freaks me out a little bit though, because I'm at a certain point when the same script keeps playing itself out every single year, it makes me wonder if we've topped out. I'm a little bit nervous about having one shitter game and dropping one. And it's it's not a big deal because it's only week 2, but it's the same thing that's happened every week 2 since he's played quarterback for us. And so what's going to happen after the bye? It's going to be he's going to have 3 great games before the bye, and we're going to look like we're in good shape. And then what?
No.
Car for the rest of the year.
Kevin O'Connell was always touted as the Kirk mentality hire. He was always supposed to, calm his mind, make it easier for him to get into that flow state. Obviously, that didn't happen. But I'll be interested to see if that mid stretch gets either delayed or is shorter or just doesn't happen. I'm absolutely coping very, very hard right now. I'm inches away from tank for Bryce or suck for Stroud,
Personally, I do not want an Ohio State quarterback. I don't know, just the last couple of Ohio State QBs I've seen, they don't pan out. I hate bringing Justin Fields into it because the Bears are in a rebuilding phase and Justin Fields hasn't shown me that he has it yet. And I have a friend that I watched Bears games with and he says Justin Fields is the truth, but outside looking in, he's a product of Ohio State and Ohio State quarterbacks haven't panned out.
I don't know if you guys saw it, but Forrester, JV Swaps, Rasta and I kind of got into it talking about scouting the helmet versus scouting the player. And it got very heated. If you're going to scout the helmet, you lose Justin Herbert, you lose Josh Allen, you lose Lamar Jackson.
I think it's really hard to evaluate the quarterbacks that play for teams like Ohio State and Alabama because the rest of the players they have around them are all 5-star recruits. Everybody they play with is the best player on the field. And so I think it's hard to look at a guy like AJ McCarron and be he set all these records at Alabama, but he can't translate to the NFL because everybody, he was playing with fucking, Mark Ingram and all these studs. And that makes those guys' jobs a lot easier. And again, it goes back to that discussion of do you take the guy that is seasoned and appears to be pro ready, or do you take the guy that's just a natural athlete? Because it's hard to develop the natural athletes. I don't know. I struggle with that back and forth. I look at a guy like Bryce Young, for example, and I'm is he a product of playing with, all these studs at Alabama? But at the same time, he's still the most productive quarterback in the nation. So it's hard. I think quarterback evaluations, I think that's the hardest position to evaluate in football.
Yeah, I agree.
I feel like Kevin O'Connell and Quessy are going to look for their QB of the future, but it's also only week 2. So to me, it's a little too early to let's tank for a QB, but I get why everybody wants it.
You're absolutely right. It's week 2, regardless of how they do this year, regardless of how Kirk does this year. they're still going to win 8, 9, 10, 11 games if we're lucky. He's under contract for I don't know how many more years, but at least through next year, they're not investing serious capital to trade up to get one of these guys.
Ultimately, I'm more concerned about eventually just Justin Jefferson's deal. And like it'd be sweet to have a rookie QB on that contract because he's going to cost us $35 million a year, $30 million a year, something like that, which I'm all for extending him. I don't know if we're going to be able to, like, if we're taking up 70 million of the cap for 2 players, what are we at? What's the cap? 210 million a year right now? It's 220, something like that, 210, I think, in that ballpark. That's going to be horrible.
It'll be straight hell.
I will preface this by saying I'm absolutely pro re-sign Justin Jefferson, but this isn't the only time that in a primetime game he's talked all this shit and then like not shown up. We have seen that a little bit before, and he really was not good on Monday. We always talk about Kirk, and we were just talking about the quarterback of the future, but like everything else about that game was really bad too, and it's really tough when your best player is, you know, as big a proponent of that as any. Like it was, he admitted to it. It was his fault. That's interception that Kirk threw. Beyond that, like he just wasn't separating all game. And you're facing like Darius. I think Darius Slay's a good cornerback. I don't think he's that good though. Like we've torched him before. I was a little bit disappointed. And I'm like, is paying $35 million for any player outside of your franchise quarterback, is that a good idea? I don't know. I wonder.
So starting to sound like PFF Eric right now, dude.
No. Oh my God. First I said it in a podcast, and now I sound like PFF Eric. This is going so fast.
Slimeball villain arc is among us right now. He's a podcast man, and now he's being compared to PFF Eric.
Remember my preface. I still said go ahead and resign him. I still said a pro resign.
So I think what happened with Jefferson is I know all of us saw this play. The very first pass that was thrown to him when he had that DPI that wasn't called, that threw him off the entire game, and I am determined about that. I don't know if you guys follow Deep Tomas on Twitter. Shout out to I Like Big Dicks. He made a good point about this. After Justin Jefferson, like after he didn't get that first call, he kind of just moped around the rest of the game. I agree with Slime. I love JJ, but like if you're going to be our franchise wide receiver, you can't mope around when you don't get your call. Stephon did that a couple times, didn't he? Like there were a couple games where like we needed him to step up. He didn't get a call, and he was just like, well, screw this. What's like, I'm just going to like go out and jog. I agree. I agree with Slime that JJ definitely needs to be re-signed, but again, it's only his 3rd year, so growing pains. But you have to back up your play.
I think it's hard, like from our perspective as Viking fans, because what made it so difficult for me to watch was like, this is the same shit that we've seen every fucking year. No resiliency at all. Something bad goes wrong early, and all of a sudden you already see it as a fan that the game is fucked. And like, I'm just so sick of that shit. But at the same time, like, again, it's hard when you're a team that drafts well, but you're in Minnesota. I'm not even playing victim card. But when a guy's contract comes up and he's had a tough stretch in Minnesota and he's a stud, I can see why that guy would want to leave when he hasn't gone through those growing pains like Stephon Diggs now has, and seems to be a lot more, you know, put together and kind of mature. So it's a tough balance, I think.
The whole Minnesota market thing, maybe this isn't what we were getting at, but I know in basketball, a lot of people talk about, oh, nobody wants to actually stay here. Nobody wants to play here. No one wants to resign here. Like Stephon Diggs, he didn't move to Los Angeles or like New York City. He went to Buffalo. I'm sure it's a beautiful place. I've never been, but that's not an upgrade over like Minneapolis, St. Paul.
I genuinely think that like the situation beyond the, you know, the location, I think the environment of the team means a lot to the players, a lot more to the players than the fans think it does. So when I say like Minnesota, I less mean the location and the market, and I more mean the fact that we kind of have this tradition of like blowing shit. And even that is less of a point than a player that we draft and is good hasn't gone through the growing pains because they're on the rookie contract. Like they're still young. And so I get it. You know, it's still a challenging line to walk when you draft well.
I saw, obviously, the Eagles won their Super Bowl this week. The Eagles are still talking shit about the Vikings. And honestly, I think that's going to be the best part. If every week, win or lose, if we are still in the heads of the opposing team's fans, that's a win in my book. But I saw this stupid ass video of JJ celebrating before the game, just like he does every week. And it was an Eagles like big account there. And he was like, oh, JJ celebrated his Super Bowl too early. So I was like, dude, this is just his energy every single game. Like personally, I think he does want to stay in Minnesota, especially with like the new regime, because like they're actually taking accountability, which shout out to fucking new coaches, taking accountability for everything.
That's huge. But somebody said that it was really refreshing to see somebody accept responsibility and it being a coach, like somebody in a management position as opposed to one single player or Kirk, taking the blame, or maybe not even Kirk, but somebody else. Just whatever he said. I don't remember exactly what the quote was, but just something about working on the scheme, and he needed to do a better job of scheming up things for our guys and doing a better job getting them prepared. It was super refreshing to hear, because I don't know if you guys know this, but when did Zimmer get hired? 2014 was his first year, right? You guys know how old I was then? I was 8.
Oh my God. I graduated high school in 2014.
Yeah, no, but I've never seen Zimmer was the head coach. My first Vikings related memory is Brett Favre, but then I don't remember any of that. I just remember him being on the sideline and me asking my dad, what's wrong with him? Which I turned out to be incredibly based for. It's interesting to see the new dynamic, and the players seem to be responding to it really well. Adam Thielen had some comment where he was like, yeah, it's great to not be yelled at, after being by all the coaches, and not have that weird, kind of toxic environment where management's really coming down on people after maybe a poor performance. But, the ideal path of leadership, you don't do that.
Saw some dorks on Twitter who were like, well, if he was being so nice and coddling him, that's probably why we lost. We probably should have gone back to yelling at him at this rate. It's like, no.
Did you watch any of the games from fucking 2019 to 2022? Because that's exactly what we did in that time frame, and we kind of sucked ass in those. And that's the other thing too, is as disappointed as I am about what happened on Monday, and as many of the same trends as I saw, with Zimmer shit, and as worried as I am that O'Connell still wanted to run the ball more on first and second down, I'm it's week 2. And we're going to have these games. Every team has these games. The Buccaneers have these games. Aaron Rodgers and the Packers have these games. They had one last week. And so, as much as it sucked ass, whatever, it's week 2. We'll figure it out. And I still believe in O'Connell, and I think that the guys buy into him. And that's really the biggest thing about being a head coach.
Yeah.
Especially a first-year head coach.
Yeah.
If you can't get the guys to buy in, you're going to be cooked the entire season. I don't know if you guys have paid attention to what's going on in Denver with the Broncos and Nathaniel Hackett, but it's looking worse and worse every day. All the fans are losing it, all the questionable decisions. He's even admitted that he doesn't think he's prepared, which is a terrible thing to say.
Oh my God.
Does not inspire confidence. The guys on the field don't seem to be super confident. Russell Wilson's not playing particularly well. But you know what? I think it remains to be seen what will happen, with the coaching hires and the whole cycle last offseason. But it's looking as of right now like we did really well with our GM and head coach picks. And I'm really happy about that. We'll see obviously what happens 2, 3, 4, 5, 10 years in the future, but I'm really happy about it right now.
Okay, maybe I'm just drinking too much of the purple Kool-Aid, but I know I said this last week, and I'll probably say it multiple times on the pod. I truly believe that this regime with Kwesi and Kevin O'Connell will bring us the Super Bowl into Minnesota. Whether that's this year, probably not, who knows, or 2 or 3 years down the road, they get the team that they drafted. Ed Ingram has looked really good, except for a few botched plays. I personally think Ed Ingram has looked really good for a 3rd-round draft pick, and our O-line has been stepping up. And I think as much analytical data he's driven for, I think that's going to help a lot, especially if you look at the organizations he's came from with the Browns, even though we all know what the Browns are, a dumpster fire. But before everything happened with them and the 49ers, he knows what it takes to make a good O-line, and he's going to build in the trenches. I personally believe he knows football starts with the trenches on defense and offense, and I think Kevin O'Connell is going to build into that as well. I truly believe that we will see a Super Bowl sometime in their regime.
I wanted to circle back. I don't know if we were ever in on him, but we dodged a fucking bullet with not hiring Nathaniel Hackett. Are you kidding me?
We were in on him.
Yeah,
and we were in.
Oh my God. Oh my
Me?
God.
Okay. I don't remember who was in on this. I know Slime, you were in on this with me, but KO, we were in on that, man. That was the meme, the anti-Harvey Army thing.
Yeah, we were yeah.
I was sitting in my AP World History class, just cooking up memes. It was taking me 40 minutes because I couldn't find a picture and I didn't know how to work the stupid generator. So I was sitting there, man, trying to put out 2 memes, some of the dumbest things I've ever made in my entire life.
Oh my God.
Ratioed into oblivion. It was horrible.
That was such wasted time.
Cooked, and I was like,
I hate
man,
it.
this is going horrible for us. This is bad. And then I gave up, and then they hired him, and I was like, oh yeah, you didn't know. We knew though. We knew.
That's right. We were ahead of that shit. Yeah, so what? We
He
started
told
with
the truth.
fucking Patrick Graham. Guess what? I don't care. We still called Kevin O'Connell. We were on that cock before you ever even thought about licking the balls.
That's a
I feel like that's gonna be the quote from this week's episode. Is everybody's just gonna drop that as soon as they. I think honestly the thing that has stuck out to me the most about this pod is that people were like DMing me and like asking me if we were going to make a page for the podcast. I was like, you guys actually want to hear just four bozos talking about football? Like, this is what you guys want?
I couldn't believe it. Like, so many people reached out and they were like, thank you for the pod. Like, we needed that.
So I think it's just because they're tired of hearing like the wishy-washy sports media from Score North and all the other crap that's going on in Minnesota. Like, we're three dudes and one teenager talking about football. We're boys being boys.
I was just going to say, this is really a community-driven podcast. We're doing this for fun first. Community is absolutely essential to that. We've talked about plans for the future, maybe potential guests who we'd want to bring on. I don't know why I just thought this, but I was thinking about, what kind of podcast hosts would come onto this? Like Caller? No, that wouldn't be fun. Phil Mackey? Maybe, that might be fun. This guy might not have a podcast. I know he doesn't have a podcast, but I can't think of something more fun than having Chris Thomason on as a guest.
Oh,
yes.
God.
Oh my God.
If we could get Chris Thomason, that would literally like make my life. Should we do shithead of the week here?
Yeah, let's do it.
All right, you guys go.
All right. So again, shithead of the week. I got two of them. So shithead of the week, I called out Christian Watson dropping a wide open touchdown last week. Got to do it to Irv, man. I'm determined if he would have caught that ball, the game would have been flipped. Like, my thing is, he watched the ball go into his hands. And how do you drop that? You watch it go into your hands, you put it against your chest, and it just drops. So, yeah, that's shithead of the week number one. Number two is all the Vikings fans on Twitter that I'm seeing that the season is over after fucking week 2, man. It's week 2. We understand why you guys are saying the season is over. It's week 2. Let's pump the brakes. We should have at least double-digit wins. Those are my two shitheads of the week.
So I know that he's not super involved in Vikings Twitter, but Irv Smith Sr. has been known to interact with some of us from time to time. So there's a non-zero chance that he's listening. And if you are, Mr. Smith, we're very sorry. Shithead of the week is an honor. It is just a little bit of fun. We absolutely love you and your son. We know it's a bummer. We know he's hurting more than we are for dropping that pass. But damn, I wish he had that pass, man. I really wish that would have changed the game.
And I mean, after Bryce's shithead of the week last week with Christian Watson, it's only fair. I mean,
yeah,
an eye for an eye.
So for my shithead of the week, I think you guys will appreciate this one. Edward Donatel, what were you thinking? The game plan. Like, he came into this game thinking like Alvin Kamara was going to be the quarterback. And like, he might throw once, he might throw twice, but we just got to make sure he doesn't scramble for 500. No, Jalen Hurts is a really good quarterback. Why were we running soft zone and 3-man rush all night?
It was a weird game where the scheme didn't look good. The matchups didn't look good. But then you also hear things from the players where they say that they should have been executing better. And then you look at things like the stat where it was like, however, we were giving up 4.5 yards of separation or something. I think that's a bit ridiculous. And like, not even a bit. It's bullshit. We shouldn't be doing that. That's fucking, how bad do you fucking suck to give up 2.5 yards of separation at a minimum? That's a whole ass kitchen table, bro. What are you doing out in the field if you're giving up that much space? I don't know. I didn't expect to like go on that little sub rant, but I did. But anyway, point stands at bad scheme, horrendous execution.
It's tough because, like, on one hand, I understand that kind of the premise of Donatel's scheme is that we're going to try to take away the bombs, allow the layups to kind of just happen. But it's tough when, like, I love Cam Bynum. He just did not know his assignment at all on Monday night. And if you don't have safeties that can call coverage in a scheme like that, it's not going to happen. I do take exception with playing 100,000 yards off the ball every play. Contest something. Go ahead. Trust your corners enough to play 5 yards off the ball. And give them a chance, at least on some of these undercutting routes and some of these screens and whatever else. It was frustrating. It was tough to watch.
There's always going to be growing pains, like we've been saying. Week 2, it's a new system for the players on defense as well. Cam's a second-year player. He transitioned from corner. There's a lot going on, but like you said, it doesn't matter. Like, you cannot leave like 4.5 yards of separation on every play. When I was watching the game, it felt like every time Hurts like wound up and was getting ready to throw a deep ball, you just put your head in your hands and that there's just going to be some wide open Quez Watkins or AJ Brown once the camera pans down, and there always was, and it was so frustrating to watch.
So that's the funny thing. It wasn't even like Devontae Smith that got that bomb. It was Quez Watkins. Like, who? Who's Quez Watkins? Never heard of him until then. Like, I'm sure he's been around like a couple of years, but honestly, I would have been way more happier if it was like Devontae Smith or AJ Brown that got that.
In his defense, Watkins ran like a low 4.3 40, or he might just be their kick returner, but he's really explosive and really speedy. And when you put him on running a straight line, he's going to outrun any of our cornerbacks that we have right now, because Cam Dantzler's not the fastest guy, and Pat P's kind of washed, unfortunately, as much as I love him, and it hurts me to say it.
He only got targeted once, though. They didn't go to his side. And he blocked a punt and a kick.
Oh, yeah. That was sick. That was awesome. That was the coolest play of the game.
Blind, who's your shithead of the week?
My shithead of the week is going to go emphatically to Mr. Titans QB1, Ryan Tannehill. Because, listen, if we're going to play on Monday night game, a primetime game against the Eagles in Philadelphia, and we're going to shit the bed, I want to be the team that shit the bed. I want to be the team that everyone's talking about. I want the hate. I want the bullshit. I want to have to fight people on Twitter. But I can't, because Ryan Tannehill made sure that the Titans played even fucking worse than we did somehow. And so still everybody's talking about the fucking Buffalo Bills, and everybody's talking about how shitty the Titans are, how worried we are about the Titans offense, and how all this bullshit. Guess what? We just got cucked by the Eagles on Monday night. Kirk Cousins has like a reputation. He's 6-3 against the Eagles. We have a reputation against the Eagles after the fucking NFC Championship game. So Ryan Tannehill, fuck you for taking away our moment for being the shitter of the week. Yeah. Fuck you. I want to be the center of attention. I'm a narcissistic piece of shit. And I am sick of being overcome by either some better performance by Tom Brady or Aaron Rodgers, or some shitty, horrible fucking dog shit, worse than anything you've ever seen performance by Ryan Tannehill or Derek Carr.
It's insane how like there'll be a contribution to the narrative of Kirk being just absolute dog water. Like, he'll throw up the most generational stinker you've ever seen, and then yet somehow some quarterback that has been like a solid quarterback will just throw up something even crazier. But the other dudes just we want to be the ones to get just completely shit on.
Yeah, I'm a masochist. Give it to me. If we are not being slept on, then nobody's dreaming about us. So if we're not the center of attention when we lay an egg on Monday Night Football, then we're not really being slept on. Sure, we will be now after what happened on Monday night. But the Eagles are going to, the Titans are going to be even more slept on than we are, and that makes me mad, because I want Lil Honey in the media to dream about us a little bit, and now they're not going to.
So I will say, and I've tweeted about this a couple times, the Eagles are the NFC team to beat right now. I personally believe they have like special teams, defense, and offense. Like, they're a hard team to beat right now. And so we're going to look back at this game like the Cincinnati game last year. The Cincinnati game was a game we definitely should have won. This game should have been a lot closer than what it was. But when it comes down to it, Eagles are going to be a playoff team if everything goes right, which as of right now, things are looking good for the Eagles. Granted, week 2, yes, I know. At the end of the season, whatever happens, happens. We're going to look back at this game and be like, we lost to a playoff team. It was a dud of a game, but we still lost to a playoff team. And I hate making excuses, but like it's true. Cincinnati went to the Super Bowl and we were all pissed off we lost to them last year. So a lot to improve on.
One thing that I think is actually encouraging from the Philadelphia game versus the Cincinnati game is that the Cincinnati game was so indicative of the rest of the bullshit that happened last year. The Philadelphia game on Monday feels to me just like a shitter game. The Cincinnati game last year felt like we had the football gods against us with like the Dalvin fumble and McPherson missed a kick and we didn't capitalize, and fucking Greg Joseph, I think he missed like a fucking 35-yard field goal or some bullshit. And so I'm almost more encouraged by having just been shit on and being like, okay, now we just reset and we move on to the next week, versus damn, we lost a heartbreaker when we had 1,000 chances to win and football Zeus struck his fucking lightning upon us and decided that we were done for the season and week 1.
All right. Boof, who's your shithead of the week?
It's everybody. It's me especially, to be honest with you. And here's why. I doubted Slime, man. Last week he was talking about the bad vibes, and I was like, nah, what you talking about? Kirk's gonna roll up, throw for 353 touchdowns. You know how it's gonna go. Dalvin's gonna run for 150. We're gonna beat him up. You know, we're gonna punch him in the mouth in their own home. And he was like, hey man, you know what? I don't like Philadelphia. Bad vibes, whack ass statue and stuff, man. And I should have believed him because man, I was sitting here. I swear to God, I texted him before the game and I was like, yo, you're right, man. Something feels whack. I don't know what it is, but you're right. And he was like, yeah, I know. But overall, it's me. Overall, it's me by a wide margin. I have been bag fumbling out of my mind with sports betting, with women, with just watching the Vikings. I totally forgot to take a ton of days off work. So now I'm working every day till next Tuesday. I'm taking this L. I'm holding it.
Roped into that is Bryce and I felt like we were even more confident than you that we were going to smoke the Eagles. I think I said like Vikings by 2 touchdowns or something like that. That's embarrassing. That is disgusting. I agreed to take a shot on the show if that was going to happen. I realized that I can do it now. However, it might be better if we put it off till a live episode so that everyone can see the disgust and the shame, like actually on my face right now.
I also will agree to that because I also said my hot take of the week was that, you know, my boy Jalen Reagor was going to have 80 yards and 2 touchdowns with a punt return. I will absolutely drink because of that. But on the flip side of that, we did get him involved. And you know I lost my shit when I saw him in that run game. In that run game when he got us that first down, you know I was going crazy in my living room.
He had as many rushing yards as Dalvin Cook did. So I think that's a W for you.
Jalen, if you listen to this, you can take off your comments. Minnesota loves you. We are not Philadelphia fans. We will not boo you unless you give us a reason to boo you. As of right now, you're doing a great job as a punt returner. Your number one fan is here to support you your whole entire tenure in Minnesota, buddy. Take off those comments.
I'd like to revisit the hatred for Philadelphia as a city. I thought I had a banger the other day when I tweeted out, this user is currently listening to the Chief Keef and busting the fattest nut of all time on the Rocky statue. And some like roll was in my DMs like, I'm going to end your life for this. You know how disrespectful this is? You know what he's telling me? So that's why my DMs were closed, is because I forgot that I deleted him, blocked him, and then like closed them for like 4 days, and then I reopened them today. So you want to send me hate mail at Base Federal on Twitter. You want to be telling me this crazy stuff on Twitter.
You're gonna be the most cut member of our podcast.
What's the thing that you wanted us to remind you of?
Okay, I'm gonna send this in the chat here before. So hold on.
Yes. So for some context, Booth texted us all. Remind me to tell you something on the podcast tonight. What'd you just send us, Booth?
I'm not saying it, bro. I'm not.
He said somebody said our podcast should be named Purple Bussy. And they might be right. That's the worst part.
Because the Vikings keep fucking us in the ass, dog.
Oh my God.
That's a good transition into our next segment, I guess. We had some
segment. What are we doing for the next segment?
We had some mailbag questions.
Oh, you're right.
Oh, I forgot. We got
mailbag questions.
Yeah, moving into the mailbag. I'm excited about this one.
All right. First question for you guys off of the mailbag. Is it all right if I read some of them off?
Go for it.
Absolutely.
What is the most embarrassing way to die? We're going to start off with some of the unserious ones.
Okay. So I'll go first. You always read those statistics, like people killed by vending machines every year. Imagine being one of the people killed by a vending machine every year.
Do you get buried in the vending machine?
You get absorbed. You become part of the vending machine. Like it absorbs.
That might be the most disrespectful thing you could do to a corpse ever.
If I was doomed to an afterlife of free snacks, I would be all right with that.
Yeah, you'd be like the Egyptian pharaoh of food. Buried with all their riches, where you're buried with Doritos and famous Amos cookies.
Yeah, so that was brought to you by Jerk Chicken 69 on Twitter. Bryce, what did you say? What do you have to say?
I don't listen. Like, I don't know. Like, have you guys seen like the first episode of The Boys?
Yes, I love The Boys.
Personally, me fucking getting ran over by somebody that goes like at the speed of light. I know that could never happen, but that's just scary to think about, man. Like getting obliterated by somebody running. That's why you don't exercise, fellas.
What about you?
Slime, what's your embarrassing way to die?
Probably murder.
Just all murder.
Yeah, fight back. You know what I mean?
That's what I'm saying. You simply overcome it. You gotta be stronger. You know what? I can't wait to see what Chris Thomason says if he would be on. But we can get on Cum Thomason if we can have him on. Cum Thomason, yeah.
Thomason. Everybody loves some cum.
Yeah. Actually, you wanna have a surprise Cum Thomason appearance real quick? You want me to see if I can get him on?
All right. Hey guys, we're with a very special guest now for our next mailbag question answer. We are with Vikings legendary reporter with the Star Tribune. You all know him, you all love him. It's Cum Thomason. So everybody, please welcome Cum Thomason with a loud round of applause in your car on the way to work or wherever you listen to Purple Fufu from. We're gonna give you the honor of reading us our next question from the mailbag.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Mr. Seinbaugh. Thank you. A notable comment that I saw this weekend was from @Forrester932, and it was "Crush me harder, big green mommy."
Great question, Forrester. Thank you very, very much.
The most liked reply to this question for our mailbag was, "The wrath of God will fall upon you, and you will not withstand his might." Do we all agree with this? Is there anything else? I would like to plug. I'm having a book signing this next Saturday at the Mall of America. If you would like to go and see, I wrote this book. It's about legends of Vikings past, and I truly think it's tremendous. I really do think it's tremendous. I would love to see some of you out there at this book signing that we're doing. I personally think it would be a tremendous opportunity for me to meet many of you. I know you all love me dearly. I'm clearly loved.
We appreciate your presence this evening.
Thank you.
I would agree that Big Green Mommy should crush me harder.
I agree.
I'm a huge fan of that.
I don't know if that's my thing personally, but I'll allow for it.
We appreciate how open-minded you are. Come, why don't you go ahead and read us the next mailbag question?
Absolutely. From Joe Cool Skull, what are the things you care about most?
Oh, that's like a really sweet question.
For me, it might be It might just be the Vikings and like money. I don't really have much going on outside of that.
Yeah, I think what means the most to me, just hopefully seeing the Vikings win a fucking Super Bowl by the time I die. That's all I'm asking for, just one.
I think for me, it's probably my family, my closest friends, you guys, Vikings, Twitter, probably chicken tenders from Cane's, mostly their sauce, probably.
I'd like to propose the next question, if I may.
Bryce, please go ahead and lead us into our next question.
First of all, I want to thank Cum Thomason for taking the time out of his night to come on to our podcast.
You're very welcome.
Thanks, Cum. I can't wait to hear everybody talk about Cum on when we drop this next episode. My question comes from the great Mr. Rev Brody, Minister of School. His question is, you got to be the player on the Vikings in any athletic-based event. You pick the player, an event, and try to win for a big cash prize. What are you going with?
I was looking forward to this one. I'm very glad you picked this question. I thought long and hard about this because what physical event am I, some 5'7", 150-pound dude, going to beat all these NFL pro athletes at? And I figured it out. Caleb Evans, I want you to get into contact with Lewis Seam. I challenge you to play me and one of the boys from Purple Fufu in a game of pickleball.
That's serious.
I'm not winning. I think I have a great chance. That is an athletic activity. I don't know if Lewis and Caleb if they know their way around a pickleball court, but I want to see it happen.
Oh, dude. I mean, Lewis and Caleb are not winning.
They're not winning.
Oh, yeah.
I'm going to answer this question next. As we all know, there's a great hot dog eating contest that happens every July 4th. Mr. Joey Chestnut is the hot dog eating contest champion. It is considered a sport, and on ESPN, it is advertised on ESPN. So my sport of choice, I am challenging number 14, Mr. Ryan Wright, the Vikings punter, to a food eating contest, plate for plate. I will be training for this, and I am calling him out on the podcast. I want this to happen. Mr. Ryan Wright, I'm putting $100 down that I could out-eat you. Mr. Ryan Wright, you and I are both big boys. I want to see this happen. In my heyday, I could go 12 plates deep. I am determined I could beat Ryan Wright in a food eating contest.
That'll be close, dude. Just look up Ryan Wright, Tulane on Google Images. That'll be close.
That's why I chose him.
I think for me, after what I just saw on Monday night, I would challenge Chris Boyd to a 40-yard dash Me and you.
Let's go.
I would lose by a lot, most likely. But he just got outran by a placeholder. And so I feel okay about my chances.
Okay, can we talk about like what are the greatest moments of Zimmer's, like as much as shitty as it happened, like what are the greatest part of Zimmer's like tenor is when he like got injured by his play card and he scratched his cornea.
Yeah.
Like that shit only happens in Minnesota. Don't tell me that the gods are not against Minnesota when it comes to sports when that shit only happens to us.
Yeah, that's ridiculous.
All right, I think we got time for a couple more questions here. Y'all mind if I raise one of my favorites?
Go for it.
So we are the Vibes podcast, as everyone knows. Vikidonis Rex brought up a great question. Vibe check. Looking at the rest of the schedule, how much does that game impact the outlook and record prediction you all had a few weeks ago?
I think this is all slime ball.
This game means fucking nothing for the Vibes, dog. We are in week 2. We just got cooked by the Eagles. I don't give a fuck because the rest of the schedule is cakey as hell. Everybody else sucks on our schedule. We're gonna be fucking 6-3, or I don't even think it's that recent. We're gonna be 5-2, whatever the fuck it is by the Vibe. Yeah, no, dog. Don't worry about the Eagles game. Who gives a shit about that? Whatever. That's in the past already. I don't really give a shit if like we got cooked or whatever. The Packers just come out and they just won by fucking what was it, 17 points right after getting beat by us. Don't worry about it. It's all good shit, and we got a long way to go. Week 2 never means anything.
It's a long season.
I agree with Slime. We're gonna go in to the bye with a winning record, but honestly, there's only a few games I see off the top of my head that we could lose. I feel like we already may have had our annual trap game with the Eagles. Biggest game for me personally will be against the Bills. That's going to be a huge game. Probably end up a loss, just thinking about their whole team right now. Like I said, 10-11 wins. I still think we are at that level right now. 10-11 wins. Too early to panic over one game. So give it until the bye, and then we'll come back to this question.
I love it. Vibes are good. And I guess flipping the script for our last mailbag question of the episode, why do we suffer?
Suffering is inevitable, and it is simply always present. It's ever present. It will never cease. There's only brief and fleeting happiness to distract you from the bore and the toil of everyday life. We wake up every morning and there's another 60 years in front of us of just misery.
Some of us suffer because of our NFL teams, and some of us suffer because we have to live in Philadelphia. And so it's just a matter of how we suffer.
Or Iowa. It could be worse. I could be an actual Hawkeye fan, though. Sorry, Doug.
Yeah, Iowa, Philadelphia, or Cleveland, if you're not in one of those places, your inevitable suffering is going to be, at least bearable.
Nate Stanley looked good, right?
All right, what are we on to?
PFF grades.
Let's move into our PFF grades of the week here. I'll start us off. It's a little embarrassing. I couldn't find his PFF grade this week, but I found his season PFF grade and I saw his performance. And frankly, it's disgraceful. Jared Goff. Come on down. What a game he had against the Washington Commanders. He threw 4 touchdowns. I didn't even really hear about that. He smoked them. Jared Goff threw 4 touchdowns, and his overall season grade is 54.4.
Unreal. Like it's a fucking disgrace, man. Like, how many points did they score? Like
36.
I wonder how much of PFF's grading system is just recency, because like Tua Tagovailoa was dog shit horrible in the first half of that Miami Baltimore game that they came back and won, and Jared Goff was really, really good pretty much that entire game. I mean, they stalled maybe a little bit in the second half, and so maybe they were a little slower in the second half, and I just think it's kind of bullshit to knock a dude's grade because he had a couple of stalled drives in the second half and then prop some other guy up as the best quarterback in the league when he was horrible an entire 2 quarters of the game and found a way to come back. I think it's unfair.
I agree. My PFF grade goes to number 41 on the Buffalo Bills, Mr. Fullback, Reggie Gillum. He is ranked towards the bottom. I don't pay for PFF JV swaps. I know I'm going to get shit for this too. I rightfully deserve that. You're right. I don't know if you saw this play, but I was watching it with my buddy, but it looked like it was a pass play at first, and then Josh Allen pitched it back to him, and he took it in for 10 yards, and he's ranked one of the lowest fullbacks in PFF this week. Give that man, he was a great blocker throughout the game as I was watching. PFF, got to step it up.
Figure that shit out. Give my fullbacks the grade they deserve. If we're not going to use the fullbacks in game anymore, we should at least be giving them good PFF grades.
Exactly.
My take. Boof, what's your PFF grade of the week, brother?
You're gonna love this one. All right. My PFF grade of the week is Garrett Bradbury.
Yes.
Yes.
Weirdly enough, he ended up posting a very solid game against a really, really solid, if not elite, interior defensive line. He had a PFF grade of 66.0 and one of the best pass blocking grades in his career at 71.0.
Whoa, go.
Yeah, no, which
What?
is incredible because he's usually posting like 38, maybe to like someone 35 to 50 range. It's really sick, to be honest. He anchored, and it's like the weirdest thing ever because that's not a thing that you usually see from him. He gets pushed around, and it wasn't a thing against these huge, intimidating defensive tackles. I don't know. I thought it was really incredible. He's got a 60.8 grade on the year, which is not great, but it's not horrible by any means, by our standards at least. I don't know what it is league wide, but that's 1 point behind Christian Darrisaw where he's at through 2 games. And Christian Darrisaw has been receiving a lot of praise, but also it's a weird comparison to make, because he's a second year player, but you know what I mean? He's shown improvement as opposed to like putting up like a 53.3 grade and like an 80 run blocking grade and like a 30 pass block grade. So it's cool to see that.
Pushing 70 is absolutely serviceable. You can work with that.
And that's the shittiest thing about Monday is our O-line actually, for the most part, granted, Kirk had some duds, but like the interior O-line actually stayed together. And one of the best O-line performances, but specifically Bradbury, I did notice wasn't getting pushed around. So it does suck to see that his great PFF grade kind of went to shit because of the quarterback play.
You hate to see it.
I know you hate to see that he had a good ranking.
Vibes.
I do.
Bradbury was short-lived.
I mean, I'll take good Bradbury play. Whatever. Fine. Like I said, I got some tweets to delete. My PFF grade of the week is going to go to one Patrick Mahomes this week. Patrick Mahomes received a 61.2 PFF grade this week, which frankly for me feels a little bit high. They won, right?
Yeah, they barely won.
Yeah, who cares?
They barely won because of Justin Herbert is playing on a broken rib cartilage.
Yeah, well, it doesn't matter. He was terrible. Just a typical Patrick Mahomes game. I feel like I think he's ranked the 11th quarterback on PFF's total PFF score across the first 2 weeks, and that just feels very fitting for him. I generally put him in the same tier as a Carr, as a Cousins, as a Tannehill type, and that 61.2 grade just sort of emphasizes that. And I think that PFF, with the analytics that they run on a weekly basis, it's fairly foolproof. And Patrick, I just would like to see a little bit more dog in you. And I understand that you haven't played a road home game ever in your career, but, that's not necessarily a Super Bowl formula if you're posting a 60 PFF grade every week.
I love it.
All right.
We can move into our last segment of the episode there, previewing the Lions game coming up this Sunday. How are we feeling? What are the vibes, guys?
I'm pretty excited for, I think this is a great opportunity for redemption almost. It's a division game, so that's important for seeding, especially as we get further down the road. It's going to be a great opportunity for us to win against a team that, it's been feisty this year. They've played with a lot of heart and they've surprised a lot of people. I really like the Lions this year, and I'm really a huge fan of everything they're doing over in Motor City. So I think this is a huge opportunity for, the new team to prove themselves and prove that it's not, like we're not going to go into some slump. It's not going to be like a continued just struggle on offense. It's not going to be, the defense isn't going to give up 24 points and a half or whatever. So I think it's a great opportunity there.
Like I said the Eagles game was going to be a shootout. So I hope this doesn't come back to bite me in the ass. But I honestly think the Lions aren't as dog shit as everybody says they are. I think it's going to be a shootout because honestly, the Lions have the best line in the NFC North. Oh, they have a great O-line for Jared Goff. Amon-Ra St. Brown scares me. Who's ever on him I'm worried he's going to get toasted. But ultimately, I think we do come out with a dub. It's a 12 noon game. Kirk Cousins, like prime environment at 12 noon. I think we see Kirk bounce back from last week, and he has probably a 300-yard game with 3 touchdowns. 2 touchdowns, depending on, everything that happens. But hopefully we see vintage 12 p.m. noon game Kirk Cousins this week. I think we come out with a dub. I'm going to say probably 31-28.
Yeah, this game is a pretty high point total. The Lions always struggle when they come to US Bank Stadium. It's a very tough environment for everybody, but Jared Goff especially seems to have his struggles here. You're right, Bryce. They got like a swag to them that not a whole lot of other teams have. They're really buying into Dan Campbell, and they cannot be underestimated. They have, like you said, Amon-Ra St. Brown, but DeAndre Swift as well. They got weapons. They can really punch you in the mouth and like fuck your day up. So it's going to be on this Vikings staff and this team to take this game seriously prepare like you're playing an actual NFL quarterback and an actual NFL team, because you are. This team can really surprise you. All that being said, I think the Vikings will get it done. I think Monday night was a learning lesson for them. There are no easy games in the NFL. There are no easy quarterbacks in the NFL. I think they're going to take it seriously. I think they're going to play with that energy that we saw in week 1 against the Packers. I think the home crowd's really going to get them going. Just the team overall is going to want to rebound. They're going to want to show that we're not just going to roll over and we're not going to suck like that. We got blown out. We're not going to let that happen 2 weeks in a row. And I could all be wrong. This could just be the 2022 Minnesota Vikings. Mike Zimmer could still be in that building. Brad Childress could still be in that building. I don't know.
Final score prediction?
I'm going to go with 21-27 Minnesota Vikings win.
Slime ball. I see that look on your face. Let's hear it.
Yeah, we're gonna fucking cook the Lions, dude. They took the team that beat us to the wire, but that was week 1. I don't think that really counts for anything. Yeah, I think we're gonna cook the Lions 35-24. I think that once they have to face a real NFL football team outside of week 1, they're gonna have some problems. I'm gonna swing the pendulum all the way over from my what was my prediction last week? 21-14 Eagles. I'm gonna swing the pendulum all the way over to Vikings 35-24 this week. We're gonna cook them.
Yeah, gambling advice, Moneyline Vikings, smash
Send it
it.
home.
Smash the over this game. Everybody knows that the Lions take us to the wire for wire for the last 2 years. Don't know why. Smash that over for the Vikings Lions game.
Jared Goff versus Kirk Cousins. You always smash the over.
If you're a DFS player, Justin Jefferson needs to be in every lineup that you play. That man is hitting 200 yards, 2 touchdowns.
Top 2 starters for fantasy this week. Actually, I'm going to do 3. DeAndre Swift, Amon-Ra St. Brown, and JJ. I know I named 2 Lions, but let's be real here. So,
KJ Osborne too.
Right there.
Go ahead, throw KJ Osborne in your flex this week.
Send it.
I'm going to be bold here. My bold prediction last week did not work out for me. Irv has a redemption game this weekend.
Easy. Thank you so much for listening to episode 2. If you're here back from episode 1, I can't even tell you how much we love you. Hopefully you tune in for episode 2 too, because we had a lot of fun doing this, and I hope you had as much fun listening. This is Slimeball at PFF Vibes on Twitter with my co-hosts.
All right. PFF_regular season is here to, again, bounce off Slimeball. Episode 1, great turnout, great feedback. We'd love to hear what you guys have to say. And like Thera said at the beginning of the pod, this is community-based podcast. We're doing it not only for us, we're doing it for you guys. We know Vikings podcasts have been kind of bled in the past, so we're just trying to make it like dudes just talking ball. So we do appreciate all the good work. Give us those ratings. We'll be on Apple Podcasts and Spotify. So keep that link when we drop it. Follow Purple Fufu on Twitter, and you'll get some interesting previews.
All right. Yeah. At Vikings Theorist, I'll take y'all out. As these boys have said, thank you so much for tuning in. It means a lot to us. We're having a blast on here, but you guys on Twitter make it just that much better. Also, I mentioned last week, I'm looking for a new handle, something in the vein of PFF something or other. Vikings Theorist is one as welcome, and I need something to fit the Purple Fufu moniker. If you got one, send it my way. All right. Thanks again, everybody. You have a great week. Let's go Vikings. Let's get that win. See you next week.